Usually when we think about our own thoughts, we picture them as, these private, invisible little clouds just sort of floating around securely inside our own heads.
Right, like they're totally isolated.
Exactly. They are ephemeral, they don't really weigh anything, and most importantly, they stay locked away from the outside world. But what if they didn't?
Well, that's the big question.
Yeah, I mean, what if every single thing you thought was actually a physical magnetic force, like going out into the world and actively dragging your reality back to you?
Oh, man. That is a wild concept.
It is. And so today, our mission is to explore excerpts from a massive cultural phenomenon. We are looking at a book that completely took over the globe in 2006, The Secret by Rhonda Byrne.
It really was just a tidal wave of a publishing event. I mean, it was everywhere. And the core premise is built entirely on that exact magnetic thought experiment you just described.
And I want to be perfectly clear right at the top about our mission today for you listening. Our goal for this deep dive is to unpack the core rules and, the specific mechanics this text lays out about how human thought supposedly dictates physical reality.
Right, just looking at the framework.
Exactly. We are absolutely not taking a stance on the scientific validity of these claims. We aren't here to endorse a worldview.
No, definitely not.
We are simply going to impartially explore the architecture of this idea because, whether you buy into it or not, the internal logic the source material constructs is truly something to behold. So, okay, let's unpack this.
What's fascinating here is that the text doesn't frame this as some sort of, new modern self-help trends or even like a recent psychological breakthrough.
Right. It pitches it as something way older.
Exactly. It frames it as an ancient, almost primordial truth. In fact, Byrne traces the origins all the way back to an inscription in stone around 3000 BC on something called the Emerald Tablet.
3000 BC. Wow.
Yeah. And the text quotes it directly, saying, "As above, so below. As within, so without." So the book sets the stage right away that this is a fundamental, unbreakable law of the universe that has simply been hidden from you for millennia.
And to understand how we got to this grand claim, we kind of have to look at the incredibly dramatic origin story of the book itself. Because Rhonda Byrne didn't just, sit in a cabin on a retreat and casually theorize this.
No, not at all.
The source material explains she hit rock bottom, like her life had completely collapsed.
The text is actually remarkably open about her despair. She was battling severe exhaustion. She was dealing with the sudden tragic death of her father.
Which is just awful.
It really is. And on top of that, her relationships with her colleagues and loved ones were in total turmoil. She was at the absolute lowest point a person can reach.
Right, and out of that total despair, her daughter Haley handed her a 100-year-old book. And that single book sparked what can only be described as, well, a frantic mobilization.
Frantic is the perfect word for it.
Yeah, it wasn't a slow research process. The text describes a blistering 7-week period where she was flying from Australia to the United States, just consumed by a burning desire to trace this secret through history and share it.
It was a massive logistical undertaking fueled by pure conviction. Her team gathered over 120 hours of film.
That's a lot of footage.
Oh, yeah. Tracked down and interviewing 55 different teachers, authors, and philosophers. And she describes the process itself as acting like a magnet, claiming that once she started looking for this truth, the right people just flawlessly appeared in a perfect, unbroken chain.
And what she claims to have uncovered at the end of that chain is this historical conspiracy of epic proportions. Like, the book doesn't just say, hey, here is a nice way to think positively.
Right, it goes way bigger than that.
It makes staggeringly bold claims about history's elite.
Yes, the historical claim in the source material asserts that this centuries-old secret has been highly coveted throughout time. It was deliberately hidden, it was lost, it was stolen, and it was bought for vast sums of money.
Like a literal treasure hunt.
Exactly. And the book argues that this secret was understood and actively utilized by some of the most prominent figures in human history. We're talking about Plato, William Shakespeare, Sir Isaac Newton.
Oh, wow.
Ludwig van Beethoven, Abraham Lincoln, Thomas Edison, and Albert Einstein.
Wait, hold on. This is where I have to pause. Is the book actually arguing that Beethoven literally sat down and consciously used a specific manifestation formula to compose his symphonies?
Well, that is the exact tension the book creates.
Because, or is the text just taking a modern self-help framework and retroactively slapping it onto historical genius to give itself authority?
The text insists that whether these figures used it consciously or unconsciously, it was this specific physical law that gave them their power. The argument is that their legendary existence, Their discoveries and their immense success were not just due to raw talent or hard work.
Or just luck, you
Yeah,
know?
right. The book posits that Shakespeare didn't just have a magical way with words. He had tapped into a universal frequency of knowledge. Newton didn't just discover gravity. His genius was a manifestation of his alignment with this law.
And the book pushes this idea way further back than the Renaissance or the Enlightenment. It makes very specific structural claims about ancient civilizations, specifically the Babylonians.
It does. It highlights the ancient Babylonians as the prime historical case study. The source states that the Babylonians didn't just build the Hanging Gardens through mere engineering.
Right, which was one of the seven wonders of the world.
Exactly. It claims a small, select group of people in Babylon knew this secret and used it to actively draw immense prosperity to themselves, making them one of the wealthiest races in history.
But the crucial part of that Babylonian story in the text isn't just about them getting rich, it's about what they did with the information.
Yes, the text claims they deliberately hoarded the power.
Oh, wow. So they kept it a secret on purpose.
Completely on purpose. They kept the masses ignorant so that the general population would just go to work, come home, and stay on what the book calls a treadmill with no power.
A treadmill with no power, that's a stark image.
It really is. The elite guarded the mechanics of the universe to maintain their status. In fact, Byrne argues that this historical hoarding of the secret is the explicit, deliberate reason why, today, roughly 1% of the population earns about 96% of all the money being earned.
Wait, really? It blames that wealth gap on hoarding the secret.
Yes, the text states flatly that it's designed that way.
Okay, so the book is painting a picture of an ancient hidden mechanism for drawing wealth and power, guarded by elites and utilized by historical geniuses. But what exactly were they guarding?
Well, the mechanics of it.
Right, like how does the text claim the secret actually physically functions? How do you go from an invisible thought inside your head to a tangible physical change in your reality?
The central thesis introduced in the text is called the law of attraction, and it can be boiled down to three simple words: like attracts like.
Like attracts.
Okay.
The source argues that the universe is governed by precise, unbreakable natural laws. To give you a sense of scale, it makes the comparison that these are the exact same natural laws that are so precise they allow humanity to build spaceships, send astronauts to the moon, and time the landing to the fraction of a second.
So it is treating this like hard science.
Absolutely. The book is telling you that the law of attraction is not a metaphor. It is an infallible law of nature, as reliable as gravity. If you drop an apple, it falls. If you think a thought, it attracts its likeness.
And the text gets incredibly literal with the physics here. It uses the language of magnets and frequencies. It explicitly states that human beings are the most powerful magnets in the universe.
Which is quite a claim.
Right. Our thoughts aren't just abstract philosophical ideas floating in a void. The source literally claims that thoughts have a measurable frequency. As you think a thought, it sends out a magnetic, physical signal. And to illustrate how this works, the primary analogy the book uses is a television transmission tower. We all understand that a TV tower broadcasts on a specific frequency, and that frequency travels through the air.
Yeah, and gets picked up by your TV set.
Right, and turns into the pictures you see on your screen in your living room. The text claims that you, the listener, are a human transmission tower. And it says you are exponentially more powerful than any television tower ever created.
So we were just constantly broadcasting.
Constantly. Second by second, broadcasting a frequency out into the universe with your thoughts.
And the pictures you receive back, like the broadcast that plays on your screen.
The pictures you receive back are your actual life experiences, the people you meet, the money in your bank account, your health, your circumstances.
So everything around you.
Everything.
Yeah.
If you don't like the pictures you are seeing in your life, the text says you have to do exactly what you would do with a television set. You have to change the channel.
Change the channel by changing your thoughts.
Exactly. Which physically alters the frequency you are broadcasting.
You know, reading through this, I couldn't help but think of a much more modern equivalent to the TV tower. Is this basically like a social media algorithm?
Oh, that is a fantastic comparison. Let's unpack that.
Well, think about it. If you stop and linger on sad videos, the algorithm doesn't care why you are watching them. It takes note of your focus, assumes that's what you want, and just relentlessly feeds you more sad videos.
Right, it doesn't judge the content.
Exactly. Is the source essentially arguing that the universe is an algorithmic feed that relentlessly delivers more of whatever you give your attention to?
That is a brilliant modern translation of the book's architecture. Yes. The universe, according to the text, does not judge the content of your thoughts. It doesn't decide if a thought is good for you or bad for you.
It's totally impartial.
Entirely.
Yes.
It functions purely as an engagement algorithm. It just recognizes the frequency you are emitting and delivers more of it. The text gives two very relatable, everyday examples to prove this engagement algorithm is already operating in your life right now.
Let's hear them, because I think people need practical examples.
Definitely. So the first is getting a song stuck in your head. Have you ever listened to a song and then found you just couldn't shake it?
Oh, yeah, all the time.
Well, the text says that by giving that song your full engaged attention, you were powerfully attracting more thoughts of that song. The universe recognized the frequency of your focus and delivered it back to you on an endless loop.
Which is annoying, but relatively harmless.
Yeah.
But the second example is where the algorithm gets dangerous, right?
Right. The phenomenon of the spiraling bad day. The text asks if you've ever started thinking about something you were unhappy about, and the more you thought about it, the worse it seemed.
Oh, definitely. It's snowballs.
According to the source, the moment you hold that one sustained unhappy thought, the law of attraction immediately kicks in and brings more like unhappy thoughts to you.
So it just piles on.
Within minutes, you've attracted so many negative thoughts that the situation feels actively worse. Your boss yells at you, you stub your toe, you hit traffic. You're essentially trapped in an algorithmic loop of your own negative frequency.
But wait, if it really is that simple, I mean, if I'm just a human transmission tower and I can change the channel whenever I want, why isn't everyone living their absolute dream life?
That is the million-dollar quiver.
Right, because if I want a Ferrari, shouldn't I just be able to sit on my couch, tune my frequency to Ferrari, and just watch it roll into my driveway? If the universe is just waiting to give us what we broadcast, why are so many of us broadcasting channels we absolutely hate?
That is the pivotal question, and the text introduces a massive catch to explain it. It outlines a strict operational rule of the universe where almost everyone fails.
Okay, what is the catch?
The text identifies what it calls an epidemic that is worse than any physical plague humankind has ever seen. It calls it the don't want epidemic.
The don't want epidemic. Okay, explain the mechanics of that.
The source explains that because the law of attraction is completely impersonal and absolutely obedient, like gravity, it does not compute words of negation.
Wait, what does that mean?
It means the universe literally does not hear the words don't, not, or no.
Oh, wow. So if I am focusing intensely on something I don't want to happen, my emotional energy and my frequency are still locked onto that specific thing.
Yes.
And the universe just drops the don't and delivers the thing anyway.
Exactly. The universe just receives the core subject of your thought.
The text actually provides this amazing list of literal everyday examples to show the listener exactly how ruthless this translation process is. I want to read them because it really exposes the architecture of the book's logic.
Yeah, these are great.
According to the source, here is how the universe translates your thoughts. When you say, I don't want a bad haircut, the universe receives, I want bad haircuts.
Right.
When you say, I don't want to spill something on this outfit, the universe receives, I want to spill something on this outfit and I want to spill more things.
It just takes the action.
Yeah, and when you say, I don't want to catch the flu, it translates to, I want the flu and I want to catch more things. It even says, if you think, I can't handle all this work, the universe hears, I want more work than I can handle.
It is entirely literal. The text stresses that the law is not biased toward your wants or your don't wants. Whatever the core subject of your focus is, that is what you are calling into existence.
So no negative words allowed.
None. If you are deeply stressed and focused on the fact that you are in debt, you are calling in more debt. Even if the actual sentence in your head is, I hate this debt, the frequency of debt is what you are broadcasting.
Okay, but this creates a massive real-world dilemma. Let's look at this practically. If a listener is staring at a literal mountain of credit card debt and they are feeling terrible about it, the source says they are actively signaling the universe for more debt.
That's right.
But how do you just ignore a mountain of debt? I mean, it's sitting right there on your kitchen table. The bill collectors are calling. It is a physical reality. How does the book justify telling people to just tune it out?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, the text addresses this friction by introducing a profound foundational concept. Creation is always happening. It never pauses. You don't get to press stop on the broadcast.
So it's continuous.
Right. And to illustrate how this continuous creation works with something as stressful as debt or money, the source breaks down the wealth cycle.
Walk us through how the book explains the wealth cycle, because we constantly see people make millions and then go bankrupt. Doesn't losing the money break the book's own infallible rule?
Not according to the internal logic of the text. The source notes that you often see people acquire massive wealth, lose every single penny of it, and then within a short time acquire massive wealth all over again.
Yeah, that happens a lot.
The book argues that initially they got rich because their dominant thoughts were on wealth. They successfully held the frequency of abundance.
Okay, so they were on the right channel.
Exactly. But once they acquired the money, a new insidious thought entered their mind, the fear of losing it. They started obsessively thinking, I don't want to lose my money.
The don't want epidemic strikes again. Their focus shifted from abundance to the concept of loss.
Precisely. They tipped the scales. The fearful thoughts of loss became their dominant frequency. The universe answered that dominant frequency, and they lost everything.
Wow. But, and here is the key to your question about ignoring the debt on the kitchen table, once the wealth was totally gone, the fear of losing it vanished.
Because they had nothing left to lose.
Exactly. Without the fear blocking the signal, they tipped the scales back to their original dominant thoughts of wealth, and the wealth returned.
So the focus completely dictates the reality, and the universe is just a mirror reflecting back the dominant frequency at all times.
But telling someone to ignore their physical reality, to look at an empty bank account and pretend it's full, sounds completely delusional to most people. Does the book offer any actual framework to justify why looking at the debt is so dangerous?
It does, and this is where the text makes one of its biggest leaps. It actually attempts to back up this idea of constant thought-based creation by citing quantum physics.
Wait, quantum physics?
Yep, the source claims that quantum physicists tell us the entire universe emerged from thought.
How does the book get from subatomic particles to credit card debt? That feels like a huge jump.
It is a huge jump. The text is heavily relying on a concept in quantum mechanics known as the observer effect. In highly simplified terms, in quantum physics, subatomic particles can exist in multiple states at once, and it's the act of observing or measuring them that forces them into a single defined physical state.
Okay, so the book is taking a microscopic subatomic theory and just scaling it all the way up to macro reality.
That's exactly it.
It's saying that the debt on the table isn't fixed, and by the mere act of observing the debt and stressing about it, you are forcing it to manifest further into your reality.
That is exactly the framework the book is constructing. From the perspective of the text, ignoring the mountain of debt isn't delusional. It is the fundamental scientific requirement for changing your reality.
You have to look away.
You have to remove your observation from the bad frequency to collapse the wave of the good frequency.
When you really look at the architecture of the don't want epidemic combined with this observer effect, you realize how psychologically brilliant the framing of this book is.
In what way?
Well, it creates a completely unfalsifiable loop. Think about it. If I visualize my Ferrari every day and a year later I still don't have a Ferrari, the book's logic dictates that the law of attraction didn't fail.
Oh, I see.
It means that deep down, on an unconscious level, I must have had a don't want thought. I must have been secretly harboring doubt, which ruined my frequency.
That is a vital insight into how the source material functions. The architecture places 100% of the responsibility on the user. The law is perfect. If the results are imperfect, it is because your internal broadcast was contaminated.
It is a radically absolute way of looking at personal responsibility and reality. Which brings us to the ultimate message the source material is delivering to you, the listener.
Yes, the final takeaway.
According to this text, your current life, right now, today, is purely a reflection of your past thoughts. All the great things you love and all the things you desperately wish were different, you summoned them.
As the text repeats like a mantra, thoughts become things.
Thoughts become things. If you want to break out of the algorithmic loop of the don't want epidemic, the rule laid out by the book is absolute. You must only speak, think, and focus on what you do want. You have to become a ruthless editor of your own internal broadcast.
And there is one final lingering detail from the text that I think about a lot, and it is something for you to consider tonight.
Oh, what is it?
Well, we mentioned that this law never sleeps. The creation is always happening. The source specifically warns that the forces of attraction continue to operate on your very last thoughts as you are falling asleep.
Wait, really?
Yes. The text explicitly advises that you must make those last thoughts good ones, because your brain is essentially locking in a frequency for the night. So I want you to think back to last night. What were the very last thoughts echoing in your head? before you drifted off to sleep?
That's a good question.
Were you worrying about a meeting tomorrow? Replaying an argument you had? Stressing over a bill? Because if the mechanics of this source material are right, that is the exact reality you just spent the last 8 hours programming for yourself.
That is definitely a jarring thing to keep in mind the next time your head hits the pillow. You have to be incredibly careful what channel you leave the TV on when you go to sleep.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the mechanics of The Secret. We hope it gave you some fascinating ideas to chew on regarding your own mental transmission. Until next time, take care and keep exploring.